Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Insider Insight Show. I am honored to have with me someone who I've admired for many years. He is truly not only a Renaissance man, but an incredibly courageous, giving patriot. His name is Patrick Byrne. Now, let me give you a little background on Patrick. He's an American entrepreneur, an icon in the business world, who was the CEO of Overstock.com. Patrick became known as a fierce advocate for the rule of law and searching out fraud, identifying it, and doing something about it. For example, Patrick became known for his campaign against illegal naked short selling. And Patrick and security regulators revealed illegal naked short selling that had been used in violation of securities laws to distort prices of public companies and stock, and harming not just the billionaires of the world, but the moms and pops of the world in their retirements. Now, Patrick currently has dedicated his efforts to help save our republic. He has brought together a team to work on dissecting the election fraud which occurred on November 3rd, 2020, and in previous elections. It's my honor to welcome Patrick Byrne. Patrick, I thank you for your service to our country and the world.
Dr. Janda, it's an honor to be on your show. I was just telling you how I've come across it many times on YouTube, and I see how smart you are. It's such an honor to be on your show.
And I'm so happy you just said that, because I'm going to share it with my kids.
Okay.
It's a wonderful early Christmas gift. So, Patrick,
remind them before you go on. Do they think sometimes you're not the smartest guy in the world?
Well, initially, until I've been proven right. So it all works out.
I was going to say there's a great Mark Twain quote where Mark Twain said, "When I was 16, I thought my father was the most foolish man on earth. But when I was 30, I was surprised at how much he'd learned."
Well, I'd like to think they're at that point, but we'll see. So, Patrick, let's dissect. Let's go. The team you've assembled, what you're working on, the findings, where you're going. Because there's this narrative out there, Patrick, as you know, through the bought-off lamestream fake media. Oh, all this stuff about vote switching and their problems with it, that's all conspiracy theory. Take it, Pat. You're the expert.
Okay, look, I built a $2 billion e-commerce company from scratch. I was the National Entrepreneur of the Year. I know something about technology. Listen to me, or you can listen to some, government official with a title, or some reporter who needs help, tying his shoes in the morning. This stuff is, from a security point of view, this election machinery, especially Dominion's, is a joke. On a scale of 1 to 10, I asked some hackers, how would you rate it in terms of difficulty to hack? And their answer was 2, maybe 1. It is easier to hack than Dominion, than PayPal or Venmo by a country mile. This election was in fact rigged. It was not rigged in ways that the public or the journalists are familiar with or understand. It was rigged in a way that you couldn't have done before everything got so electronic. And the rigging was not, and don't puke over your shoes. And by the way, I'm a libertarian. I'm not a Republican, a small L libertarian. You can see my Bitcoin's not bombs on my shirt. I did not vote for Donald Trump the first time nor the second time. I've never voted for Republican or Democrat. I'm in this because this is about the Constitution. If this is allowed to stand, it's over for our country. This election was completely rigged. The Democrats are correct. It was not widespread. It was very intelligent, whoever designed it. They picked 5, arguably 6 places, but I'm just going to speak to 5 really. And they were Atlanta, Philly, Milwaukee, Detroit, and Maricopa. And they were very clever. They realized you don't have to steal the nation's election. You don't have to cheat everywhere. You just got to cheat like crazy in those 5 places. Those 5 places flip the states that they're in. Those 5 states more than flip the country. So really to steal the nation, they needed to steal 5 counties. And they went full on goon in those counties and did this outrageous stuff, gooning, having muscle goons go up and drive out poll watchers and shutting the polls down in the middle of the night and putting newspapers over. All this goon, it's scofflaw stuff. It's somebody who's not even trying anymore to pretend they're following the law. They realized if you do it those 5 places, you can flip the whole election. And that's what they did. That's not just the evidence for this is overwhelming. It's not, I mean, it's super conclusive. It's silly for anyone to deny it. All they can do at this point is spin and try to distract the public. It's overwhelming. And now, how do I know that? You want to know how I know that, Doctor?
We sure do.
And I'll go into more details. How I know this, I've been funding since July, August, a team of cyber hackers, very professional hackers, ethical hackers, cybersecurity companies, outside investigators and people of different kinds, and we had this completely reverse engineered. We knew it was going to happen. And a question that will have to be addressed someday is, why did the DHS, and in particular CISA, CIES, we have connections into them, had briefings arranged. CISA refused to show up for the briefings.
Interesting.
Now, going forward, yeah, real interesting.
And in fact, the CISA director, Krebs, has since been fired this past week.
Yeah, but he got fired after he came out a week before saying this is the most, secure election history. Just so you know, that man's a lawyer. He's a lawyer from Microsoft.
Right.
That man knows about as much about computer security as I know about your profession, Doctor.
Although you've had 113 operations, so now.
Yeah, and you do learn some. I was explaining to the doctor that before we went live that he's a surgeon. I've had 113 surgeries. The most recent one was this July, had a tumor removed off my spinal cord, which explained why my left leg had stopped working over 4 months. So anyway, he has no business saying that. It absolutely was rigged. I'm going to give 3 buckets.
Let's hear it.
Things to understand. Is this cool?
Perfect.
Bucket number 1 is the functionality built into these systems, especially Dominion. And by now everyone knows this story, that it was Hugo Chavez who wanted some election software built so that he could goon. And it was built and designed so at the precinct level, precinct administrators in every little precinct can play all kinds of games and have privileges that go far beyond what you think a precinct administrator should have, or a county. And by that, I mean, I can understand the administrators got to be able to set up a new account and passwords, but the administrators in these systems have the ability to move votes, drag and drop 1,000 votes at a time or more to anyone they want. There's all kinds of flaws like that. No election system should have that kind of administrator privileges. Another thing I don't want to omit, because nobody's getting this yet in the press, but along those same lines, that's one of like 10 different ways these Dominion systems can be beaten. But importantly, and you got to look this up, there's a type of malware called Q-Snatch, and it steals your credentials. It snatches your credentials. Q-Snatch is all over Dominion servers. There's an article online from a couple of weeks ago estimating 75,000 servers are infected with Q-Snatch. What that means is every time an administrator logs on, or any poll worker, the credentials are getting snatched and sent out on the dark web. Some miscreant can buy them, or some guy sitting in Xi'an, China can buy them. And so not only does that precinct administrator of some little neighborhood precinct in Maricopa have what I would say is far too high powers to shift votes around within his or her precinct. But in addition, is once their credentials get snatched, somebody sitting over in Belarus or China can come in and also has those same privileges. That fact alone is decisive. Anything that ran Dominion software that has a Q-Snatch malware on it should be disqualified. No one has any reason to believe those votes just from that simple fact. In addition, so we can come back and go into more details about bucket number 1, but this is the kind of stuff in bucket number 1.
Got it. Bucket 2.
Bucket 2 is there's the lived experiences of various people who voted, worked in these precincts, or some postal workers. And we have hundreds of affidavits, detailed affidavits at this point, recounting really odd experiences. Like in Maricopa, they were continuously told, don't use a pen, get rid of your pen.
Right.
And they were giving Sharpies. Well, and so then there's a question of why is that? And then the third bucket is the statistical the macro results, which display irregularities one would expect. They're not just quadrillion to one, and you're a scientist or a doctor, so I can speak in these terms. The chances of, even if you picked an area that was 96% Biden, the chances that you would have, if you picked 100 people, you would have 100 votes for Biden, or 1.6%. If you picked 1,000 people, the chance that all 1,000 people would vote Biden it's 1.8 times 10 to the minus 18th. So it's something in the quadrillions, or I think 100 quadrillion to one that could ever happen. You'd have 1,000 in a row. The chance that you would ever have 123,000 in a row are, it's quadrillions. I forget what's beyond quadrillions. I mean, it's astronomically against. That could ever happen. And here's the key point. These three buckets line up perfectly. So let me walk through one example, and you'll see how in Maricopa County, the day of the election, up until the election, everyone was told to use ballpoint pens. At the day of the election, the workers were told to get all the ballpoint pens out of the place, and crates of Sharpies were brought in. And everyone was told use Sharpies. And we have affidavits from people who said, well, I was trying to use a pen. Well, why they were told to use Sharpies is this. Going back to bucket number one, this Dominion software was built as follows. If someone comes up and enters a ballot and the machine finds it difficult to read, it gives you a warning sign. You have the option to hit the green button. The green button says, well, if you can't read it, it'll go into the pile to be adjudicated. And you just think that at the end of the day, a bunch of judges are going to go through, look at it, like the old hanging Chad stuff, and decide which one. And that's what you think. Instead, what really happens is if you hit that green button, all your vote goes to a pile of voting waiting to be adjudicated, but it really just creates like a pool of votes that the precinct administrator or administrators can come by and drag and drop to whatever candidate they want to drop them. So that's so it has that functionality. And lest anyone deny that, open the instruction manual, download and open the instruction manual.
It's right there.
So you've got that functionality. You have this inexplicable thing where these people who voted in Maricopa report this very strange phenomenon about how aggressively they were hassled about using a ballpoint, and you have to go to Sharpies. And they say, when you fill it out with a Sharpie, I'd go up, some little lady goes up to feed her vote into the machine, gets this warning sign. The precinct worker says, oh, madam, this probably doesn't mean anything. But just hit the green button. It will go into a pile and someone will look at it later and decide. She doesn't know. She hits the green button. That thing happened. She just gave her vote to whoever the administrator of that precinct is, or whoever back in Xi'an has stolen the credentials of the administrator of that precinct. And then the third bucket is you look at the statistical results, and you have things like thousands of votes running through, all for Biden, and all being uploaded or all being processed at a much faster speed than the vote tabulating machines could actually read the ballot themselves. So I'd say that those three items of knowledge dovetail beautifully. The systems were built with the functionality to do this thing I just said. The people who went in and voted and experienced it, and some of the poll workers have given affidavits that confirm it, that they were told, get pens out of everyone's hand, you get them to use Sharpies. So those two things dovetail together. And then third, the results that came out of Maricopa in ways display these statistical oddities that are quadrillions to one against. So all of those things marry up to make me go out on a limb and say this Dominion software was built so the election officials could use it to cheat. The experience of the workers coincides with, if it was being used to cheat, what would the people who go in and vote and work in the precincts experience? It's exactly what they describe in the affidavits. And the election results come out with quadrillion to one oddities within them that you can't really explain. And all three of those things just dovetail. It's immediately obvious that this happened. And that same story is tellable in each of those 5 places, and really also in Clark County, Nevada.
Well, I'm based in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. We're in Wayne County, outside of Wayne County here. Just 30 miles down the road is Detroit and Wayne County, which is one of the centers that you spoke about. And you're right, Patrick. People around our country right now in the bought-off lamestream fake media want everybody to concentrate on, on the dead people vote, on the ballot stuffing vote. Okay, that's part of it, Pat. But where the real money is, Pat, is on this electronic side, and they want to say that Pat, this is what they're pushing. There's no evidence. There's no truth to it. It's conspiracy theory that these people that are talking about this are whack jobs. Pat, that's what. What? They're still on that, Pat. They're drilling that. They're drilling that hard today and the other day. I mean, they're not stopping. And I can only assume that we're over the target when we talk about this.
Oh, well, you're right. Well said. Yeah, it's silly to even be saying that. I don't even want to waste my time with any journalist who has that point. It's just silly. So,
one of the things we outlined on our platform, General Tom McInerney, 3-star general, retired, came on our platform 2 days before the election and spoke about how the deep state was going to try to steal the election by using a hacking system and in particular, a system that had been used elsewhere around the world called Scorecard. And
I saw that interview.
And what was your impression?
I'm not aware independently of Scorecard, so I cannot verify that, but everything he said jives with what I know. You see, what happened, and your viewers should understand this, is that in 2018, the Dallas, Texas elections had irregularities in them, much like the irregularities we're now hearing about. The Texas state government hired a cybersecurity group to investigate these odd facts about the Dallas election that had been managed on Dominion equipment. That cybersecurity group went in and discovered about 10 different ways that the systems could be cheated. 10 different ways in which the Dominion stuff is garbage. And in fact, Texas outlawed it in Texas as a result of that. Although I understand it was used anyway, but Texas outlawed it or made a reg against it. So that group was on it for 2 years and has had 2 years to reverse engineer the way to rig an election using Dominion. The rest of America's had 2 weeks, 3 weeks to understand it. They had 2 years. I've started and they and another cybersecurity group, I started getting involved with and funding back in the middle of the summer, and kept this going and hired other hackers and hired other people that were needed. And we had the whole thing mapped out, just what they were going to do. So much so that that's why we went to the DHS and the CISA, and they refused. A meeting was scheduled and a special room reserved for it, and the CISA people, whose job is to oversee this, refused to attend the meeting. How odd.
How criminal. How criminal.
Well, all these people, there's got all these, yeah. And, it's not just, if you have a Microsoft lawyer over this kind of stuff, you get what you deserve, because lawyers know, they don't know any of the actual technology, but they're top cheaters. They don't really understand it, but it's below them. It's just filled with all kinds of the number of people who had to look the other way for this stuff to happen is unreal.
Patrick, how can folks follow your efforts on this election matter and your teams? Because it is critical. It is critical to the future of our country.
Well, I have a website called Deep Capture that I used when I took on Wall Street 15 years ago. It was largely dormant until after if I kind of proved to be right in 08, 09, I kind of let it go dormant. In the last year, I reactivated it and started publishing stuff because I was involved in other matters that I've exposed on there. And I have started to put up, and will do so today. I'm going to start, since all these idiots are screaming out, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? I've just been, I didn't even know anyone was still there, but I've been kind of really learning today they are. I've just decided I'm going to go up tonight and just start posting all kinds of things. The lawyers will get furious because lawyers all want to be like this with information. I'm putting it out to the public. I'm going to start posting the information. I've got one more interview after this, then I'm going to start posting hard data, graphs, everything the public needs online.
And that's deepcapture.com?
Deepcapture.com.
Patrick, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. You know, my dad's favorite statement was dream big and dare to fail. And Patrick Byrne, you are the epitome of that statement. And I thank you, and every American benefits from your efforts.
Thank you, Doctor. It's an honor to be on your show. Have me back anytime.
You got it. Thanks, Pat.
Take care, sir.